Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Patricia Capella with Clarion Events Food and Beverage Group. I'm very excited to introduce Sandy Korem, the founder and CEO of the Catering Coach and a longtime speaker at our trade shows, who will be discussing Pivot, Punt, Prepare in just a few minutes. Before the presentation begins, a few housekeeping notes. All audience members are on listen-only mode, which means you are muted. We will be monitoring audience engagement on the dashboard and do encourage you to participate by using the question pane. There will be time for questions and answers at the end of the session. This webinar, as well as others in our series, will be made available on our website in the coming week. Now, without further delay, let me turn the program over to Sandy. Sandy?
Hi, Patricia. Thank you so much. First of all, I'm really happy to be here today. And some of you may be wondering, looking at that title, Pivot, Punt, Prepare, well, what in the world is she talking about, and why did she even come up with those words? I want to tell you a little bit about me so you can understand why those words are very important to me. Not only am I a catering coach, but I have a business called the Festive Kitchen, which I started over 25 years ago. I came from a nursing background and started that business without any business background, without any financial help in any respect, and worked very part-time in that business for probably 8 years. So obviously I didn't cater too much. But anyway, got up to about 1.6 million in gross sales, and realized, finally looked at the bottom line in reality and was making zero profits. And so I right then had to decide to either be in business or to pivot and do something about it so that I could come to a time when I did have good net sales. And that's another whole story in itself, because that's not where we're at today. But that is the reason why I kind of look at things maybe in a different perspective, and why I have some of the things I'm going to talk to you about today became so important to me then, and they have paid off now, and they can pay off for other people too. So, so the topic is pivot, punt, and prepare. And one of the things that I talk about all the time when I speak is I talk about MRS. And what that means is multiple revenue streams. Now, if you're a caterer or if you are a restaurant owner, before COVID, you could have multiple revenue streams. It's just whether you had them in place, had the forethought to even do that, or had the desire to do that. But I think what has happened now since COVID is many people who are restaurant owners or caterers all of a sudden have realized, oh my gosh, I've got to have another way to bring in revenue to my restaurant right now. So the first thing I want to tell you about is a little bit about me, about Festive Kitchen. What do I mean by multiple revenue streams? So I'm a caterer. And as a caterer, I'm not just boxed lunches. I've got 6 streams of revenue. Okay, now hear me out, because this is going to be important in the way that you can maybe look at another idea that maybe you can have today to help you bring in some income during this time. 6 streams of revenue. We had events, yes, corporate and social events. We also did drop-off catering, which is not just corporate, but also private social drop-off catering. Also, a lot of business with the NCAA. That is a out-of-the-box revenue stream for caterers that not many people know about. Restaurant owners are delving into that too. And also funerals. I happen to be a caterer for 32 funeral homes, okay? And so that's an out-of-the-box revenue stream, but we had multiple revenue streams in place. We also have 2 food shops. Why did I open up a food shop being a caterer? I even have restaurant owners that have opened up food shops. Why was that? Well, I figured out a long time ago that a lot of people attended our events and they loved our food. But why did they have to wait for an event to have our food again? So we opened up a food shop in the front of our catering kitchen, and originally we sold 4 different flavors of cookie dough balls. That was it. Now we have 2 food shops with over 100 items daily that we produce. All right, so think about the things that I'm telling you about, the revenue streams that I have, and also what happened when COVID started, okay? So we have our food shops, and also that has evolved into food manufacturing. So I manufacture food for restaurants, manufacture food for gourmet food shops, one of which is one of the top ones in the United States, and it's in Texas, which is where I'm at now. That's where my business is, and it's statewide. All right, so that's where we were prior to COVID. So pre-COVID, we were catering about 1,500 meals per week, and we were servicing about 900 customers per week in our food shops. COVID happened, so immediately what happened to the festive kitchen? We had to pivot. Just like any restaurant, any food service company had to immediately pivot. So what did that look like for me? First of all, our food shops were totally slammed. This is all within the past, 4 weeks, 5 weeks? Food shops were totally slammed. Why was that? Because everyone wanted to stock up. They were stocking up not only on toilet paper, they were stocking up on everything that we had in our freezer. It was like the holiday season. It's not like that right now, but it was like that then when it initially started. Next thing is, what did restaurant owners do to pivot? They immediately turned. What did they do? They said, oh, okay, we'll just have takeout. Okay, so that is one of the things that restaurant owners did to pivot. Restaurant owners also, some of them just said, okay, I'm going to close. We'll talk about that in a minute. So they either decided to do takeout or they decided to close, and this was immediately what happened. I happen to be a member in a group of 20 restaurant owners. No, I'm not a restaurant owner, but let me tell you something. I'm going to share some of the things that have happened to these 20 members over the past 5 weeks. They're all across the United States. They have all different laws in the state that they live in. They're all different sizes of restaurants, and I want to share with you some of the things that they did to pivot and what they're doing to punt right now. It's amazing what they are doing, but it's also amazing all of the different opportunities and how each restaurant has been doing different things in their community. The other thing that happened to Festive Kitchen or to anybody catering is there were no events. One day we were feeding 1,500, 2 days later, 0. What happened to the funerals, you may be wondering? Guess what? Funerals, at first we thought they're going to be okay. Yeah, they're going to be all right. And then they said you can't have any more than 25 to meet together. And thought, okay, we'll be fine. Then they said, no, you can't have more than 10. So we're now doing drop-off funerals for just like 12 people. We will drop it off at their door. That's it. So in other words, the events that we did went to 0. Okay, so we pivoted, my company did, and did food shops. My restaurant friends either closed or they started takeout. That's what they did in the beginning. All right, there's a motto that my company has always had since day one, and it's called "Don't Panic, Punt." The reason that I've had that motto, and it's even written in huge letters at my commissary kitchen all across the wall, "Don't panic, punt," especially in the catering sales office, is because it doesn't matter if you have some issue with catering and you drop the beef tenderloin or you drop the fajita meat or something on the ground. It doesn't matter if you don't have any forks because you forgot to rent the 300 forks and you're on the top of a building on a rooftop venue. I've been there. This actually happened. We didn't have the forks. It doesn't matter. You better not panic, because what's going to happen at 7 p.m., those guests are going to be there to eat, regardless of whether you drop the tenderloin or the beef or regardless of whether you have the forts or not. And so what you need to do is don't panic. You've got to punt. And so I want to share with you what I've done to punt as a caterer, a food manufacturer, and someone that owns food shops, and what my restaurant friends have done to punt. I hope that I can give you an idea that maybe you haven't thought about or haven't heard of, or maybe just a little tweak that might be able to help you today. So, Festive Kitchen, what did we do to punt? First of all, I knew my break-even cost. And so what we did was we immediately shrunk to just the food shops. And so we had to let over 32 hourly people go because there were no events. We just let all the hourly people go. We kept our salary people. We have 13 salary people. We kept those salary people and reduced their salary by 25%. And said, you guys, if you want a job, you're going to be doing everything. You're going to be sweeping the floor, washing the dishes, whatever it takes to do the food shops, to make the food for the food shops. And many of these people were so happy to have the job. Yes, even though the unemployment is paying, they still wanted a job to do. And so, but if I didn't know what my break-even costs were, how would I have even known how many people I could hire, keep on staff, or how many I could let go? So that was number one. We knew our break-even cost. First thing we did is we immediately started touchless curbside. And I know you've heard this, but we did it in 24 hours. And also, as being as a nurse, I come from a nursing background I told you about, I immediately said, okay, you have to take your temperature, you have to take a picture of your temperature, you have to send that to your manager and show them what it is before you can come into work. Then when they came into work, we also took their temperature, and we do it several times a day. That's for that kitchen staff. They wore masks, they have goggles, the whole 9 yards. And what else did I do with those pictures that I've taken of the people wearing the mask? I shared them on my social media, which is my e-blast. Normally, I have a very high open rate of around 30% on e-blast. I don't do as well on social media, a lot of other types of social media, but for my e-blast, I've developed a relationship with my customers, and so I've really touched on that in the past several weeks. And if you look at Inc. Magazine, they'll tell you that if you've got an active email list, that a lot of times if you treat them as if you have a relationship with them, you have a great open rate. Right now, my open rate is up to something like 40%. And so I shared those pictures of our staff on those e-blasts, so that I wanted people to see that their food is being taken care of. So we started touchless curbside service, which means we had people were calling in, placing an order on the phone, and then our guests would drive up to our store, flip open their trunk. Our staff would bring out the food, put in their trunk, touchless. Okay, that's the first thing that we did. Next thing we did is we started touchless delivery, which a lot of people are doing, in that if someone called in for an order, then we would deliver it to their home. They have to have an ice chest that is sitting by their front door. Now, if you're a restaurant owner, you're thinking, well, the food's hot. Well, that's okay. An ice chest will also keep that food hot too, okay? But you don't, I'm gonna get to the point in a few minutes, you don't have to just deliver a hot food to go. You can deliver other kind of food, and that's what all of my restaurant friends have been doing. But we had touchless delivery, which we are still doing today. And so that works really well for someone that doesn't want to get out at all. And we do the touchless delivery. Next thing we started was groceries for our employees. I figured, you know what, we're buying from our food provider, Benny Keith. We took a poll and we asked our employees, what is it you want for staples? They got to vote on what they wanted for staples: onions, ground meat, chicken. They wanted hot dogs, whatever it is they wanted. We bought it by the case, and what we did is we've been selling it to our employees just at wholesale cost, and they're paying by credit card because I didn't want to take it and put it on their check and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, they're buying it from us, wholesale cost. Now, what is that doing? It's, number one, saving them time, and number two, it's keeping them out of the grocery store so they can't be infected. So we started groceries for our employees. I already talked about the daily temps that we did prior to work and when returning to reporting to work. Also, you know, there's the Safe Serve COVID-19. I'm not sure if it's still free or not. I think it might be. We've required every person that is working for us to take the Safe Serve COVID-19. That's another thing that I've blasted to my email customers too, our database. Also, if somebody has a cold in their family, they're out for 14 days. Well, you are covered if by the mandate that you have to pay for them for 14 days if you think that they may have COVID. And I think there's you'll have to ask your CPA about that, but that is a write-off for you. I think you can be reimbursed on that on your taxes. I'm not sure on that, but that was one of the rules we have. If you have a cold, you got to be out for 14 days. Just for your knowledge, we've only had one person that had to stay home because one of their children was exposed to COVID. It's a long story how that happened, but no one has had it, and that's about all that we've had is just that one incident. Also, we started essential groceries for our customers. Now, I know some people that have had better sales with this than we have. We started essential boxes where we have a meat box that has ground meat, chicken. I think it had pork chops in there also. What I did was we just assembled some boxes of food that we normally get wholesale. Just had the meat, just added $20 a box, and we sold essential groceries. We have another box that's just vegetables. That's fresh fruit and vegetables. That's bananas, raspberries, carrots, onions. So we had that essential box also. And then we also had some things that were essential meals that are just like an entree, like lasagna, chicken pot pie. So we made some essential groceries that our customers could buy by the box. Also the e-blast, which I talked to you about a few minutes ago, showing our standards of food safety. Let me tell you, I cannot believe the emails I've gotten back from my customers saying, thank you so much for sharing that with me. And also on the groceries, they've sent emails that have said, thank you for taking care of us. Thank you for thinking of us so that we don't have to go to the grocery store. We can just call in, get curbside touchless service, and pick up our groceries. Also, we raise money for first responder families. Now, I know there's lots of people that have given food to the first responders, to the people in the hospitals, to the police, to the EMTs. And I got to thinking about it and thought, great, I'm so glad that all those guys are getting food, but what about the mom at home with the kids? She's sacrificing because her husband is one of the firemen or one of the police or somebody that's got to pick up someone that's sick. What about her? She's at home with the kids. So we raised money and we just finished, we provided, I think it was something like 1,548 meals that we provided for first responder families. And you're asking, well, you must have money to pay for that. No, what I did was I raised the money to pay for it, and all that the money paid for was the cost of the food and the cost of the labor to produce the food. We made no profit on that, and we let people know we weren't making a profit, but I couldn't pay for 1,500 meals, but I raised the money to do that through my e-blast, okay? And then the last thing was online shopping. Oh my goodness, that's a game changer. I'm going to talk to you about that later with what other people are doing, but a game changer for my stores. Should have done it a long time ago. All right, so punting. What have restaurant owners that I know of? What are the people in this group of 20? What have they been doing? Normally we have a group text with this group of 20 restaurant owners, and man, we normally have what? 20 to 40 texts a month. It's over 1,000 that have happened in the past 2.5 weeks. It's unbelievable. It's like the phone explodes every time I turn my phone on because everyone is sharing with everyone and trying to get an idea. So this is what they have been doing. Number one, they're also like me. They knew their cost on everything. They knew what their recipes costed. They knew their cost on their labor. So they were able to shrink down on their labor so that they could break even. Right now, as a backtrack, my company's breaking even. That's pretty phenomenal right now in COVID. They made changes every day to adapt. every 24 hours. I talked to a guy yesterday. He's in Lubbock, Texas. He owns 3 restaurants. I said, Jeremy, I'm going to be doing a webinar tomorrow, and tell me, and I've got some quotes from him. I said, tell me a couple of things about your staff, the few you had that in the beginning when you're punting and trying to figure out what to do. How did they adapt? He said, Sandy, if they came to work on Monday, and he said, then they were off Tuesday and came back on Wednesday, everything had changed. He said, so I would tell restaurant owners, you've got to be ready to adapt, to punt, to see what's working, to see what is not working, and to change it. Then none of these restaurant owners ever gave up. I'm going to address that in a few minutes. But I'm not saying that people are at fault if they gave up and closed, but I'm just saying the ones that have succeeded said, by golly, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to make this work. Also, they were willing to punt. Like I said a few minutes ago, they're willing to make changes. Okay, normally a restaurant owner thinks of to go as, okay, if you have a family of 4, you're going to have 4 different things to go for that family of 4 as to go. But they switched from the typical to go to family packs. What do I mean by that? I'll go back to Jeremy. Jeremy has one of his restaurants is a Mexican restaurant. He said typically before, on a family of 4, they would have one guy wants fajitas, one person wants enchiladas, somebody else wants quesadillas, and who knows what the 4th person wants. But he said what we did was we switched it to a family pack for 4 people of just the same thing, of enchiladas for 4, rice and beans for 4, queso for 4. I don't know exactly what's in this pack, but it was like that. He said, Sandy, our sales doubled. He said, people have sent me emails saying, thank you so much for doing that. You are going to continue doing this, right? So they switched from regular to go to family packs. What else does that do? It increases your profit, because on family packs, you're going to be able to charge more, okay? More to-go alcohol sales than previous bar sales. I can tell you probably 10 of my restaurant friends, they live in states where they're allowed to sell alcohol. 8 of the 10 are having more alcohol sales now than they did when their bar was open. I'm not talking, these are not mom and pop restaurants. These are restaurants that have gross sales a year of 5 million, 8 million, 4 million, 3 million. This is not anything to sneeze at. They switched immediately from selling at a bar to selling to go. And their alcohol sales are more than previous. I mean, that's hard to believe. Social media, social media, social media. Many of them had things for first responders. They talked about it. They showed it on their website. They showed it in social media, what they did for first responders, and their people in their towns where they're living loved it, and so their sales increased. Also, they were willing to do something new like take-home meals. Okay, what the heck is a take-home meal? It's not your to-go fajitas. It's like a pan of lasagna, but that feeds like 3 or 4 people that somebody can have in their refrigerator and heat up tomorrow. They've switched to that. That's what I do all the time in my food shops. These restaurant owners who never had even thought about that before have switched to take-home meals. Chicken pot pie, they're doing lasagna, they're doing linguinis, they're doing all these sorts of things that are just feeding 2 to 3 people, and it's cold. This is the key word. It is cold when it's given to the customer. The customer can put it in the refrigerator and reheat it the next day. Wow, that is punting. That is out of the box for a restaurant owner. And many of them, again, have switched and added online shopping for their restaurants. Oh my gosh, those are some huge ideas, okay? There's going to be some more in just a minute. Observation. Okay, I may get in trouble with some of you for saying this, but I'm going to say it. There have been some articles, especially one, I'm not going to mention where, I'm not going to mention the restaurant, but it was a very lengthy article. And the person talked about their restaurant. They'd been in business a long time, but as you read more into the article, they had no health insurance for themselves being the owners. And they'd been in business for 7 and 8 years. they were only bringing in enough revenue at the time to just make their bills. So in my opinion, they really weren't profitable. So how can they go through something like COVID and actually come out on the other side? Maybe it was only a matter of time before they would not be able to do it. So that's an observation that, you know, I've been reading, and it's saying that maybe only that about 40% of our restaurants aren't gonna be there on the other side of COVID. I'm not saying that that's I'm not feeling, what am I trying to say? I feel sorry for them, but maybe it was only a matter of time before that would happen. Only the strong are going to survive in this. And I think part of most of the survival is going to be on how you think out of the box, and also that you know your profits to the penny. Also, while I'm talking about this, I'm going to talk a little bit about PPP. Oh my goodness, that has been a roller coaster if you've applied for it. In these 20 restaurant owners that I'm a member of, about 12 of them got funded on the first round. Every one of them was funded at a small community bank. The ones that went to large banks were not funded. I was one of the ones not funded. And then on the second round, I was at a small community bank, but was not funded. On the second round, I went to 2 small community banks. I was approved 2 days ago, and the other one I would have been approved, but of course, you know, I already had a number. So all I'm saying is that it is very confusing, but if possible, try and be funded and apply at a small community bank. They're having much more better results on that. But there's still, out of those 20 members right now, there's still 3 who have not been approved. So don't feel alone. There are other companies who have not been approved. All right, group A of people of what the word right now is, how are you going to prepare? This is the third term. How are you going to prepare? We pivoted, we punted, now we're going to prepare. Your restaurant should never be the same. Not will never be the same, but should never be the same. I think there's 2 groups of restaurant owners and caterers right now. Group A, I don't think is really in reality, and they are satisfied with the status quo. I got an email, I'm on a blast from someone else that I got from a large organization, and they said, well, got to keep our chefs busy right now. We got to give them something to do until this is over, until things are back to normal. There's not going to be a normal like before. It's a new normal. And when they said they have to keep their chefs busy, I'm thinking, my catering coach group, we meet every Thursday night. These people have told me they're more busy now than they've ever been in their life. Because why? Many of them hadn't had a day off, but they are making it happen the same way with that group of restaurant owners. Okay, group B, what are they going to do during this time to prepare? They're going to learn and they're going to grow. That's what they're doing right now to prepare for the future. Some of them have said, I'll never go back to exactly like we were. Jeremy, I talked to him, if you referred to him a few minutes ago, his restaurant, he said, Sandy, I'll never go back to like we were. Why should I? And let me tell you a little bit of his success. He said, I was forced to do what I knew that we needed, and I'm glad it happened. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, I should have been doing to go a different way all the time. I should have been doing alcohol to go, and I didn't, but now I've been forced to do it. He's got lines out he has a drive-through, and he's got triple lines. He is actually higher in his sales now than he was same month last year. There's about 6 of those restaurant owners that are the same, just like that. Also, Fred Langley, who owns Restaurant Systems Pro. If you don't know Restaurant System Pro, there's a plug for them. You need to go check them out because they're the way to help you cost your recipes and labor allotment and purchase allotment. But anyway, I asked him, what are restaurants doing now that are learning and are growing and they're going to be successful? And he said, Sandy, they all have the same attitude. They have the attitude to serve the community as staff, and they're paying it forward. Those are the people that are being successful right now. Kathleen Wood had a webinar yesterday. My goodness, she's formed a new food group, and they're helping the elder care. So she went out and said, hey, this isn't working, so we're going to form something new. So now is the time to prepare. And how are you going to do that? Like I said about the Lubbock restaurant expanding catering menus, he said he should have done that before. Houston Caterers, she said, oh my goodness, I knew I should have opened a food shop immediately. She turned around, started having online food shop. She's hired a social media director. Let me tell you something, she does not have the money to do it, but she did get her grant, and that's what she used her money for on her grant, is that she's hiring social media director, and she right now started to break even just a few days ago. Me, Festive Kitchen. Heck, I've got a shopping cart that I never had before. I started it. I'm going to develop a more robust one, because I think after all of this, people are still going to be doing online shopping for food. It's not going to go, it may be decreased a little bit, but I think it's going to be greatly increased. It's like many people never used Amazon before, and they're now being forced to use it. I think Amazon's going to have so many more customers when this is all over with, or whenever we get down the road. Same way with me. I'm going to keep those online shoppers. I'm going to develop a more online, robust system. My California restaurant friend, he said he owns 2 restaurants, and he said, I will always from now on have prepared meals. Right now he's developing packaging for that to do in the future. He's serving prepared meals. He said, when my restaurant opens, he said, right now the rule comes I can only open for 25%. Who can even afford to be open on 25%? If you open up, how can you even have the money to do it? It's not fiscally feasible. So he said, I'm not even going to open at 25%. I'll wait until it's 50 or maybe 75%, and I'm going to continue selling my prepared meals. I'm going to continue having my cocktail drop-offs, because he's one of the ones that is just blowing the doors off with his cocktails and all the alcohol that he's selling. And then if you're only catering, I have to say, my Canadian catering friend said, we will never go back to what we were. Why should we do those large events? Hey, it's nothing wrong with having catered events, but now she's doing online shopping. So all I'm trying to tell you is that there has been a way to do pivoting, which many did, and they punted, but how are they going to prepare? It's like right now, if you've got some staff and they've got some extra time, then what they need to do is they are the ones that need to be preparing you for down the road, developing social media if you've got the budget and if you can do it, or developing a drop-off catering so that when business comes back, there's going to be so many that have failed that you are first in line to be the ones that are prepared to do those different type of events. I don't even know what the event world is going to look like right now with the funerals that we're doing. Where they're having rules right now of talking about when there's 25 people that are allowed to be in one room. How are we going to do that? Can we serve them with a buffet? I doubt it. Are we going to have to do individual boxes of food? Maybe that's the way we'll have to go. No one knows. But all I can say is use this time and be prepared, because others are doing it and are being successful at it. So so Patricia or Amy, I think we've got some things right here about the upcoming food shows.
Yes, thanks so much, Sandy. That was such great information. I really appreciate you taking the time to share all your great ideas and on
Yes.
what to do during this time. If you can move forward to the next slide, I just wanted to point out just a couple of things before we go to our next section of Q&A. You can find Sandy's presentation will be loaded up on the foodandbevshows.com. This is also where you'll find a list of our upcoming webinars, and we will be sending out an email to everyone who had signed up for Sandy's webinar. They will get an email with the information today, so you can listen in at any point and go over anything. And keep your eyes out for any upcoming webinars that will be coming out in May. So, Sandy, let's
Yes,
go to the Q&A because we've got some things coming in here.
absolutely.
Let's see here. So, our first question, we are in a state that is slowly opening, and we are only able to have 25% in our dining room. How much promotion should we be doing, or should we continue to focus on takeout and pickup?
Oh, absolutely. Is that keep that promotion up. Why? Because you're only going to be at 25% in income. Just think of that. 25% in income. So how are you going to make up for that other? So I would definitely still do the pickup, the takeout. And you know what? Keep on doing it even when you're at 100%. That's what my restaurant friends are telling me.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
Also, our next question here around Mother's Day. You've shared some great things for restaurant caterers to pivot during this time. Do you have any new ideas for Mother's Day that perhaps people can implement?
Yes. Okay. Typically for Mother's Day, what happens? Everybody goes to a restaurant. Well, restaurants aren't open. And so for me as a caterer, it's never been a popular date because women are the ones that usually plan events and they don't want to plan them because it's Mother's Day. So I think a theme should be, and what we're going to be doing also is, give mom the day off. And so what you probably, I would suggest that you do is that you have things that you can deliver to them or have them pick up that are, kind of female oriented. I'll just to give you example of some of the things that some of my members are doing. Some of them are doing shrimp salad by the quart. They're doing specialty salads such as there's one that's an arugula with grapefruit and oranges and citrus dressing and pomegranates, things that women would like. Some of them are doing scallopini chicken that all that has to happen is that they have to just heat it. It's already prepared up to the point of cooking. So make the food something that's oriented to a female and then provide it, I would say, in units of 2 to 3 or either a 4-pack like I talked before, like Jeremy's doing with his 4-packs. But make it something for mom. And then here's a great idea. If you don't have a liquor license, and I know most restaurants do, but if for some reason you don't, or even if you do, they're doing specialty cocktails like blueberry lemon vodka fizz. And if you don't have a liquor license or want to sell the liquor, you can have the blueberry mixture, you can have the garnishes for the drink, you can have a recipe on a little card, and all you have to do is add the vodka. And so make it female oriented. Also take care of the kids, make like a little pizza package for them. They can make their own pizza, and so that it's mom's day off.
Wow, thank you. Those are really great ideas. And speaking of the alcohol, here's our next question. They thought alcohol takeout was just during the pandemic. Will restaurants be able to still offer this option when we go to the new normal?
I've heard a mix on that one. I've heard, so I do not know the law on that, but on my, my text with all those 1,000 texts, there's those guys have been talking about how in some states they are considering them, that they are going to allow them to do that. So that's going to be a state by state rule.
Okay, thank you. And Sandy, are there things that you have tried that haven't worked?
Oh yeah. Yes. Yes. It's like it's like when you have a restaurant, you think, oh, I'm going to have this dish is going to be awesome, and you don't do a test on it, and then no one buys it. Well, right now we're kind of in a phase where we can't really do too much of a test except for just put it out there. So yes, the grocery essentials have gone slam bang great for about 5 caterers I know and about 4 restaurants. For me, it didn't go. Okay, so I think it's just I included it because it's done so well for them. I just may not have the right market for it or something. So yes, those things didn't work for me, but all the other things that I told you about have absolutely worked. So I wouldn't be afraid to try something. Just don't invest a lot of money in it, but just try it. You know, maybe you could put something out on social media. Would you be interested in this or something like that? But just don't be afraid to try, because you will never know if you've got something really hot there and you don't know about it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Next question here is, what are some of the new catering rules about serving and food safety rules?
Well, the rules, I think that's a state by state thing also. And some of them are about that you can't have the same tongs. For instance, say you had, to me, I don't know how they're going to do buffets unless they have something like a very attractive sneeze guard there and have a waiter serving the food, but you can't use the same utensils. Also, you're going to have hand sanitizers before they go on the line for the buffet, if you have a buffet, and then afterwards. So I think also for seated dinners and things like that, it's going to be the same as restaurants. So I think the rules are changing every day. And obviously, it's things that are going to be state to state and region to region. Just in Dallas, where I live, the rules are different in one county to the next, and we're all in Dallas proper. And those are the ones that I've heard the most about, though, especially about those utensils. And then also the packaging, if you're using disposables, that you have to use the plastic packaging for the fork and the napkin. But then again, the virus is supposed to be transferable on the plastic bag. So I don't, that the fork is packaged in. So I don't know what they're going to do about that. So that's all the ones that I've heard about.
Great, thank you. And actually, before we go to our next few questions, I forgot to ask you, could you go back a couple slides to your contact page so we can have that up? Thank you so much.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. So what is the best venue to invest in promotion if your budget is small?
The best venue? Is that what you said?
That's the question.
Would you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
I think maybe it's, what is the best avenue to invest in promotion if your budget is small?
Oh, okay, yes. Then you're going to have to do, then it's going to have to be Facebook or Instagram, if that's what they're asking, to get the word out to their to people. That would be the only thing, because if you hire someone to do your social media, that could be expensive, unless there's somebody like, there's all sorts of college kids that aren't going to school right now, and they know Instagram, and especially, and so they're willing to work for not much at all. So that's the way I would probably promote things, is with Instagram.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I feel so bad for all of the college seniors who are graduating with no graduation. So
yes.
Yes. And this next question goes around our food stores. Do you need any different licenses to go to a food store option?
Oh, yeah, great question. No, you do not. Let me backtrack. You can sell from your, right now, the rules are really lax because they're just know that people are on survival. But eventually, okay, you have to have a food manufacturer's license. Don't let that scare you. It's from your state health department. It starts out at $25 a year. And a lot of people will say, well, what do you have to do about ingredients that you list on your food? You only have to have just the bold name of the ingredients, like mayonnaise, butter. It's when you get into, if I sell a product and it's being sold at another store, that's when you have to have the nutritional analysis. But really, there's not, it's a small license. And I've told restaurant owners this before. People come in for your dressing, or people come in for your great sauce, and so why not bottle that? or why not make it so that there's other things that you make that's just the one thing that people love, and why not have it to them available in more times than just them having to come in to eat, because you could have it in your freezer. It could be something they could keep in their freezer and you could sell that. So that's why multiple revenue streams are huge, because it's not, we don't even know what this virus is going to do. Maybe you can get back up to where it's 75% or 100% capacity that you can have in your restaurant, but then who knows what's going to happen if there's a second wave. So, seek about any multiple revenue stream that you can do, but back to the food manufacturing, it's very small, it's from your state.
Thank you. Do you have any unique ideas on ways that restaurants can support the food banks and food pantries in the area?
Okay, that is a question that, like here in Dallas, the food banks, many times, we used to have food that would be left over from an event. They wouldn't let us contribute it because it had to have a certain packaging. I think right now that things are much more lax because of just, the whole COVID experience. But I would find a church and ask them, because there's a lot of churches that are partnering with food banks. I referred to a few minutes ago about how we raised money for first responder families. And what happened was, when we were raising the money for that, I thought, well, is there a way that it could be a tax write-off for the people that contributed? And so we happen to have a relationship with a particular church here in Dallas, and we talked to them, and they allowed us to have the contributions made through them. And then it was a tax write-off for people, and then they paid for the food that we could produce. So I know that they are doing a lot of work with food banks. So I would talk to a church or synagogue in your area also. And also I would contact Meals on Wheels, because there are some areas of the country where they are not, they don't have the person that can make the food, and they're looking for people to make the individual meals for the people that need the Meals on Wheels. I know somebody that's doing 500 meals a day for Meals on Wheels. So contact Meals on Wheels in your area.
Wow, that's impressive.
Oh, it is, yeah.
And our last question we have here actually is dealing with social media, and perhaps what you were just suggesting is something good for people to post on social. But this question is, what types of things are you promoting on social media other than the photos of food and the hours that were open?
Well, I promoted what am I trying to say? I did our, when we did our curbside, our touchless, I did all of that. And then also we are going to be posting, we just sent a thing out today of how many meals we've done with first responders. I think that's really important. And not that you're trying to be bragging, but you're trying to let the community know that you're there for them in another way besides just in sales. I don't know if that makes total sense, but there's quite a few in the restaurant group that I know of that have really gotten interviews by doing that in the local news about how they're providing for first responders in a different way. And so that's what I would put on social media.
Thank you, Sandy. Actually, we had one more question come in, and I just wanted to say, me personally, I've seen some of the local restaurants in my area, and I'm in Connecticut, have posted things that they've done with the first responders. And for me, it's just a nice uplifting morale, to see that too.
Yeah, it is. It inspires your staff. It inspires your staff, especially the ones that are in the kitchen and don't see the client. I've got 10 in the kitchen. They never see the client. And we sent them, we got them pictures showing the meals that they prepared being given to the families. And they were all inspired by that, because it kind of puts a face on what they're doing. And so I think it helps your staff also.
Definitely. And then spin off of that, how did you raise money to make the meals for the first responders?
I just flat put it out there in our email, and I just said, you know what, we want to do something, and we think that there's a gap. I said that that there was a gap between the first responders receiving food and their families, and that we wanted to raise money to give. What we gave was entrees. In fact, they're frozen. We made lasagna for 4, mac and cheese for 4, I think chicken enchiladas for 4, chicken pot pie for 4. We gave them 2 meals a week that were frozen so that they could defrost them and use them whenever they wanted. And also the other thing I did was I sent an email to the police chief of all of their tiny little towns here in Dallas, and to their assistants, and said, this is what we see a gap here. This is what we want to do. This is how we want to do it. And then we partnered with that church that I talked to you about. And so the church came, picked up the food, bagged it, and took it to them. So I blasted about it to my customer base. I told them how they can make a contribution. And then I facilitated it by contacting the police chiefs.
Wow, that was an amazing idea.
Thank you. Thanks.
Well, that's actually all of our questions today. Again, Sandy, thank you so much for your time today and sharing all these great ideas.
You're welcome.
You know, it's always been a pleasure to work with you, and I look forward to doing that at our shows when those take place.
Yes.
But until then, I hope everyone stays healthy and safe, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.